Do I say my name? Or?
If you want to, just say when you were in CET and
Okay.
your experience.
I was in CET approximately 9 years ago. It was a good experience. It helped me with confidence, socializing skills, and Sam was a great man to be around.
Yeah. Sam, the co-developer of CET. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And what are you doing now?
I'm a pet sitter out in Lake County. I like to write poetry, draw, and just read a lot of magazines and other nonfiction. Thank you.
Okay. Cheryl?
Okay, I was in CET in 2007, and I enjoyed it, and enjoyed it so much I got my mom into it. and
No, you didn't get me. Oh.
Well, she wanted to try it.
Who was the director? What was her name?
Wendy?
Well, Wendy. Okay, Wendy, because it was about 2 or 3. It's been quite a while, so now I can't remember. Mine is slowly going. They had the parents of the clients that were coming, and they wanted us to see what they had to go through.
Yeah.
So we had to go successive, I think it was Monday nights for about 3 weeks. And we had to do everything that they did. We had, and I knew nothing about computers. We had to do the computer exercises. Then we had to do different exercises and try to find out the plots and everything, different puzzles and everything. It was really interesting, and it really helped my daughter.
Yeah.
So, and it really, in a way, it helped me too, you know, knowing what they went through and everything, and so I enjoyed it. Oh, and I'm Mrs. Millicent Driver, Cheryl Driver.
Yeah, yeah. And I enjoyed the computer games. I enjoyed Dragnet and Columbo and Introduce Yourself and all that stuff. And it helped my social skills as well. And I had to speak in front of people, and that was hard, but I made it. And it was just a good experience. Wendy Meyer was my coach. Yeah, it was just a good experience.
Okay, and then Sarah.
I'm in Tri-C now. I'm in Tri-C now.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good for you.
And, yeah.
What is a Tri-C?
To
Community college.
Community college. Cuyahoga Community College.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
and what are you studying, Cheryl?
Business administration. My major is virtual office assistant.
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's great.
Wow.
Something I never knew about.
Me either.
Yeah,
Me
it's a great,
neither.
great new thing.
I didn't know anything about none of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, until she started.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I was in CET about 3 years ago. CET helped me release a lot of anger. I had a lot of frustration with the whole system and how everything was going from up until that point. And it was a nurturing environment where I could kind of release those built-in tensions that were within me. And I now am working on a nonprofit organization that our family founded in 2010, which is called 11 Eggs, and it means one short of a dozen, and we're fighting the stigma of mental illness and the misconception that people are missing an egg when the reality is that it became a bird.
Ah, that's great, great. I like that
And I'm Darla, I'm Sarah's mom, and from my perspective, when Sarah came into CET, she was still really very sick. We weren't even totally sure yet of her accurate diagnosis, and she was having issues, as we all were, accepting it and understanding. And what I saw happen was her confidence, which you both have talked about, really came back, and she was so frustrated about her lack of short-term memory, and it truly made a difference with her short-term memory, which made her feel more like her old self again. And you know, it was a really tumultuous time for us. She was away at college, and you know, we all thought doing great, and then just went off a cliff, and none of us knew what to do. So we were thrilled when we found. I was on the internet searching for something. I kept thinking there has to be something, and if it meant we had to travel to another city, fine. And then I found CET, and here it was right here. So you know, it worked out very well. So it was a really good experience for us.
All right. Who else? We have two young gentlemen here to talk too. Don?
My name is Don Grimaldi, and I was with CET about 8 years ago. And it was a really great program. Sam Flesher was the proprietor of the program, and he went through a lot of great detail, which I really did learn a lot of, getting into different specific categories of study and the way you should think and how to present yourself and what have you. And I was very, very sorry to hear about Sam about a year after, 2 years after I did graduate CET. He had passed away, and I was really upset.
So, Don, what are you doing now?
I'm working for a dry cleaning company in the dry cleaning department.
You do smoke restoration, right?
Very little.
Wow,
Mostly
okay.
restoration, but very little smoke odor.
Okay.
Every once in a great while, it's a different category of the business.
I see. All right, thank you. And then Jeff?
My name is Jeff Michaels. I was in CET about 9 years ago, just before my wife, Megan. It was a long program. What's 3 months, was it?
It's a year.
A year?
Yeah.
Jeez.
It is long.
But it goes
Well,
fast.
9 years ago,
Only seemed like
right?
3 months.
No, but most things that change, if it changes fast, it doesn't last, but this was a slow change. I married the wife, Megan, and got a job as peer support specialist on a assertive community treatment team. Out of Beachbrook, we serve 16 to 23-year-olds with the same illness I have, and I found that CET, working slowly, has helped me in public speaking, dealing with people, keeping my thoughts organized, and reality checking.
And then we have Nadine, whose brother, Mark, was in CET.
So my name is Nadine Bendicky, and my brother Mark Adelson participated in CET twice. Once probably in 2002, 2003-ish, and then again from 2009, 2010. And he's not here today with us. He's now living in a nursing home on the west side. There were some cumulative effects of his illness and what I call the brute force of the old psychiatric drugs. His health was deteriorating both physically and mentally, and so that's where he is. That was a hard thing to do for me. But and at the same time, the story has if not a happy ending. We felt Mark really made progress in CET both times because he was ability to concentrate and focus. I mean, we could have a sustained conversation where before he was, very, very distractible. Another sound would take him off in another place. He'd have a thought, he'd go after that. So it was hard to have a dialogue of any duration because he was literally all over the place. And his ability to focus in terms of reading and the conversation part, keeping his thoughts in order the way you mentioned, kind of keeping yourself together that way. And the other thing I found was that, it's kind of hard to articulate this, but he started to have interest in things beside himself and his issues, his needs, whatever, empathy, being part of that. But I remember he called one night and he was talking about what was going on in Rwanda, the genocide that's going on in Sudan, and which is deep. I mean, it's really heavy-duty stuff. It's hard to watch, very painful to watch. And he had lots of questions. Why was it happening? Where was the government? Why were they hurting the women and children? Wasn't it like the Holocaust for us? We're Jewish. And it was, I mean, an incredibly complex, deep subject, very, very painful to him. He was very distressed. He said, what should I do? I said, shut it off. I mean, you still have that, you have that choice. But it was the kind of thing where he was really able to take the focus off himself and his own immediate needs and really be able to talk about something that's, I don't want to say abstract, I don't mean it that way, but it's very distant physically from our lives, and it's very different emotionally from what we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And it disturbed him enough that he wanted to talk about it, and obviously I couldn't relieve him of his uncomfortable feelings because it's a terrible situation, and he was right. But I was really amazed that he watched the news and understood it and was concerned enough that he wanted to chat it through with me. And I think before CET, I don't want to say he'd be oblivious because I don't want to say it in a derogatory way, but he was so consumed with his illness, and the illness took so much energy from him, emotional energy, that it's caring about other people, as we all know, takes energy, takes emotional energy. And so I attribute that, you know, largely to CET and the ability to focus. And so, not to beat a dead horse, but his not being here today, I don't want people to say that this is a sad story, because it's what he needed. And he's actually much happier. We're happier as a family because I'm not doing all the day-to-day caregiving. He needed to be in a community is really what it amounted to. He was living alone and it wasn't working. And the physical things were scaring him. And so now he's in a place where he feels safe. And he's done well. He's been moved up to another unit where people are, it's still locked, but it's a healthier unit. He has privileges to leave with us. And so it's not a bad ending. It's not what we predicted, but he's doing okay, and as a family unit, we're doing okay. So that's why he's not here.
It was, I think, such a great example of some things that CET. It seems like CET had really changed for him. Things he was maybe not able to do before, able to do after. And I'm wondering for the rest of you, are there things that changed for you that you were able to do, or do differently, or?
It improved my memory too a whole lot.
It improved her 100% because she was actually catatonic for about 8 or 9 years.
Well, see,
And she is,
didn't.
no, I know it, but I mean,
It's one of the things that.
one of the things,
yeah.
but I can't shut her up now, but before, we couldn't even get her to open her mouth. And it was schizophrenia, because she would hear things, and being at home with me, it never worked out. And she was in like 5 different psychiatric hospitals. And every time she came back home, she'd sink back into the same thing. So every time we try to get her out, she didn't want to go, but she had to, because she wasn't, and so she would cry and carry on, but we took her out to California. They wouldn't know about it, but there is a place in Mesopotamia, Hopewell.
Yeah.
That's when it really started helping her. She was there like 6 months. Hopewell, that's the last one she's been in, Hopewell. And she still wasn't as talkative or have as much experience with the community. Told the Jewish Family Service, told her, we want to get you in the CET. They were starting this program. And that's when it really helped her get her mind together, get her thoughts together. And she always said she wanted to go to college, but we had to take her out of high school, so she had to get her GED first. And it took about 4 years to do that. And the math is what was holding her up. She finally passed that. And the minute she got that, she went to Tri-C and she was in college.
Hey, great.
So,
Now I'm back in math.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was in post-CET too. I was in post-CET.
Should we talk at all about post-CET, or what?
Well, if you want- if you want to.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Were there other things you wanted to say about post-CET?
It was very enlightening, and got to socialize, and yeah, that was good experience too, but I had to stop because of school. But,
You know, in school, yeah. I wanted to say something to you because from what you were saying about him getting out with people and everything, it's much better. You know, people don't want to put their loved ones into a different area. They're more safer at home, but it doesn't help. You know, home does not help you. When you get out among people, you're around people with experience and the doctors and nurses and all this, they're so much more helpful than a parent would be because, you know, they dealt with it. And that's when she started coming up because we had to put her in these, she was in St. Luke's, she was in a hospital in Maryland, Ellicott City, Maryland. Laurelwood, which is now what, Ridgewood?
no, Ridgecliff.
Ridgecliff,
Now Laurelwood.
okay. No, it was Laurelwood first.
No, it was Ridgecliff first. Then it
Okay,
became,
all right. Then it became Laurel. I always call it my second brain now.
Yeah.
And so each time, like I said, she improved. And then when she got back home, she would get right back at the same age. She wouldn't talk, she wouldn't do anything. And that's when they said, we have to get her out of the house for a long time. That's when we took her to Hopewell. She kicked and she screamed and she carried on. We said, you have to stay. And we just left her there. 6 months, she was she liked it's like a farm. She was with the horses and the sheep and it was just a good, healthy atmosphere. And nurturing atmosphere. Yeah, they were very nice out there. Yeah. So I would, if anybody has any problem in children or adults, send them out to Hopewell because they really do a good job with people. Yeah, so.
It really is a good way to be, especially when you get old. I got 2 elderly parents at home that I'm doing a lot for right now also.
Oh.
They just went in their mid-90s and it's really got to be a job. It's, having to be attentive with them all the time and make sure they got proper medications and food, what have you. So it really got you thinking when you get that age. I really got to think forward now in the next 5 years that they become less and less mobile and what have you as they go on to the last 5 years that I recognize. And I might have to consider a nursing home, which I was going to try to avoid.
Well, that's another thing. You know, you don't realize how much help you don't want to put them in. It's like I said, you don't want to put them in a home, but it's so much better. It's better for you because there are people there that can care for them, but you have to make sure you go there and make sure that they're doing their job because if you don't, they'll just do whatever they want to do.
But what you're doing today is a good thing for the future, I think.
But if you can get your parents in a nursing home or something, it would be so much better for you, you know.
Right.
And they would be doing so much for them and take a load off of you.
Right.
Yeah. That's a chore.
Well, and I think the community issue that you brought up is a big one, and I know for Sarah, and especially early on when you're at that place where you're just newly diagnosed or just still being diagnosed, and I know that Sarah would say at the time that she never felt like she fit anywhere. Like her friends that she grew up with were moving on with their life and moving to other parts of the country and taking on jobs and getting married, and she wasn't doing those things, but yet there wasn't really a group of people that she felt comfortable with and that, you know, were her quote-unquote peers. So when she came to CET, she was finally able to connect with people who were, you know, on some levels at the same place that she was. And some people were further along in the process, which was also good for her, because then she got to see that, you know, okay, I can make progress and I can do better, that it's not necessarily always going to be like this. So that part was really good too.
Yeah, and it was a school environment, kind of like it's a learning environment, and that helped me kind of realize where my cognition was at that point in my life, because you're kind of questioning your own abilities at that point, you know, after you're diagnosed, and it helped me kind of gauge where I was at and where I needed to go, you know, what I had lost and what I had still had and what I could gain and what I was capable of. So it helped me reach my potential.
You know, another thing I wanted to add, you know, when Sharon Shoemaker, who was Mark's caseworker at the time, came to me the first time and said, we want him to do CET, it takes 13 months, whatever, and I said, are you kidding me? I said, I mean, to sustain interest in something and following through, 52 weeks is hard for anybody. But he hasn't had an experience like that, you know, since he got sick when he was in high school. And she said, I think he can do it. And I said, okay, I'm skeptical, but okay, you know, I hope I'm wrong. And he did it. He did it twice. And so the power of being able to set a goal and then say I went to the 52 weeks and, you know, and they graduate. I don't know how much of this Ray may have already told you, but when they're coming through the end of CET, they have to write something about themselves and their experience, and then their families are asked to write something, and there's a graduation, an actual ceremony, because, you know, rites of passage are important for all of us. And each time I had to write a note, sat down and wrote it, and then you share it with, you know, your loved one, and so it's a lot of positive reinforcement, and again, the socialization of having to be in something all those weeks and not wanting to let other people down, even though if he didn't quote unquote feel like motivation is a problem for all of us, some more than others. And so I was really surprised that he would hang in there, because he'd been so long since he had a goal that he set for himself and that he met. So it's a very powerful experience to be able to say, I did this for 13 months or 14, I don't remember the length of time. And
50 weeks, I think.
Is it 50, 52? I thought it was 13 months, I don't
Well,
remember.
it's now it's 48 weeks, but when Mark was in, we did like 55 weeks
Okay,
actually.
so I'm not, yeah, so
And he had, I think, almost 100% attendance.
Wow.
Right,
Wow.
right, Megan, you were in the same group and
so
the,
this is
both groups. He was
big
very
stuff.
proud of that.
Yeah, he was very proud of it, and I was very surprised. So I think the power of the group, your peers, and being part of a group that meets regularly like that is an important part of the process.
Those are the things that really motivated him.
I think so.
To continue.
See, that's another good thing. Families can't motivate. You go around people that are trained to do these things. This is why it's so much better. Just like you said, you were skeptical that you didn't think he could do it. But his caseworker figured he could because she's dealt with all of these. Listen, what people don't realize is that they have a stigma. They keep them at home. They don't want people to know about it. But you know, when you put them out in the world, that's when they really start growing and everything. They're around experts. We aren't. We don't. Because I had no idea what to do. I was searching out and got in touch with JFSA, and that was the beginning of the beginning.
What about what about the family groups? Did that help you support?
Yes, it did.
Cheryl
Yes, it did. Yeah, because you met the. I mean, it was like a fun thing, you know, for the parents, because it was. We would never think about these things. They had things like. It's hard for me to express myself because I'm by myself, but just a dog and a cat. So when I get out, it's hard to talk with normal adults. But anyway, they had like cartoon characters, wasn't it cartoon characters where we had to see why is this one doing this, why is he looking that way, things you wouldn't even think about. But if you have that in there, she brought her whole book here.
Like we would analyze this picture, like what's he thinking or doing or why, you know.
Yeah, so we had just as much fun, like we were back in school again, we were back to being children again, you know.
Yeah.
It also helped me with disclosure because you're in a community where everyone knows there's something with you that's different, and you don't know what the other person has and they don't know what you have, so it helps you kind of say, hey, I'm Sarah, by the way, I'm schizoaffective. And it kind of helps introduce the other person and say, well, I have this, if you say it first, you know. So it helped me with disclosure, with just in public and also in CET.
It also helped with my own issues with stigma, self-stigma. as I hear the words floating around here. But it really, like Sarah was saying, she gained an acceptance of the situation. And being around other people, I felt, who have the illness, I felt I was not alone in the matter. Even though we're 1% of the population, I think, right?
Right.
There were other people who had the same illness that I did, and so I was able to kind of shed that skin of stigma, self-stigma.
It's like a toolkit. Recovery has its own inertia, so even after you stop pushing, it still goes. And if you catch a hill, you're in luck.
I was wondering, you were commenting about, changing your own self-view. How else did you, or did it change how you felt about yourself? It changed how you thought about stigma and where you fit. But what about your own self-view?
My feeling inferior, or feeling not being able to fit in and all that kind of stuff. It was more or less a feeling of just really moving on and focusing on something else outside myself, as she was saying. Seeing others with the same illness helped me focus on other things besides the illness. Because at first, of course, it's such a big part of figuring out where you are and just doing basic things in the environment. And here you're able to move on,
I know you were talking a moment ago about kind of relationships and kind of building the community within the group. What about developing relationships and friendships kind of after CETs? You find yourself making new relationships maybe outside of even kind of clinic or services, or even within?
I started, like I said, disclosing better at appropriate times instead of too fast or too slow. And it helped me develop more friendships. Not ones that lasted, but just ones that kind of were more associates or people that you kind of knew but didn't really hang out with that often. Close friendships, I'd say not that many. It was still difficult just from the illness itself to develop those friendships.
Anybody else? Has that changed for any of you?
I think I found myself after CET. Every once in a while I would catch myself in what CET has done for me. I meet somebody as a customer or in a place of business and what have you, and I kind of think about my approach and how I'm dealing with people from the class of CET.
Don, were you working while you were in CET, or did you start working after CET?
I was working also.
Huh? Okay.
Yes.
I thought you weren't working there, but I...
Yes, I was working also.
Okay.
One of the big things that we've certainly talked about with CET is, that I think improvement certainly in not just social skills, but hopefully kind of a better quality of life coming out, that translates into, I think I love you talking about your brother and being able to talk with him about things that maybe he wasn't able to do before. So wondering if anybody here has any other experiences they can share, maybe how CET has helped them in that way, or if you've made new friends. I think, you both have you have a marriage over here, so you have a positive relationship, I hope. But if anybody else want to talk about how it's helped them kind of
It's
social?
helped me with relating to people and public speaking.
Mm-hmm.
After I did CET, they made me a priest. They promoted me. I'm a Zen Buddhist, so I give talks now and again
Wow.
and work with certain populations and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And you give talks on your work, right? At
Yeah, they send me to conferences and whatnot. Not as fun as going for a meditation retreat.
That sounds like a lot more fun.
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
I think I was just looking, I think more for kind of more of the social benefits. And you were talking about how it's helped you.
It's helped me with learning social cues and all that stuff,
Okay.
you know. Yeah, when to talk and.
Well, I think it's brought her self-esteem up too, because it was down. She didn't have any. And her therapist asked her a little while ago, how's your self-esteem? She said, oh, it's way up on the ceiling. That's how much better she felt, you know. So that it really helped with her self-esteem, and that's probably why she was ready to get married, because she felt better about herself.
Yeah, that helps.
Mhm.
At work, a number of you are if you're working or you have kind of a role, a job, or school, how has it helped you? And I mean, is it something that kind of inspired you to kind of go back to work or school, or has it helped? Give you skills?
Most of all, it helped with management of symptoms, ways to manage your symptoms. Sometimes you in the stay busier, or just doing a couple things a day, to try and not focus so much on your problems. And it's very difficult when you're, well, for me, on a day like this when it's very cloudy, getting the seasonal effect disorder and all that. I just, being married to Jeff is, I not only have a comrade, but you know, we have a lot of support for each other, and that branches out to others also, which CET teaches.
No?
For me, it helped a lot with my poetry. I need to concentrate a lot to write, and I'm trying to focus on the creative arts as a career, also with the nonprofit. So it helps your creativity levels, and it helps you realize that there are benefits to being mentally ill. Like, you can be more creative with some of your illness. And it also helps me concentrate just on focusing on what I was writing on, or just being able to read and write in general. It helped a lot.
You know, it's a couple of you mentioned how lengthy the course is. It's the 52 weeks. What kinds of things kind of motivated you to keep going? Or to keep that commitment, to keep coming back?
My coach,
Yeah?
yeah, she would come to my house. She would come to me and do it. You know, I didn't have to go to her. She would come to me, so it was very accommodating.
Yeah.
And the social content, connection, once again, helped me go through and graduate.
Yeah, you don't want to let the rest of the group down.
Yeah.
For me, it was like a voice. It was the only time I got to communicate with people outside of my family. I didn't really have that many friends at the time, so it was really helpful to be able to have someone hear you.
Yeah, we never thought she would go all the way through it either. You even said when we first met and talked about it, when she heard how long it was, she's like, well, I'll try it, but I'm not doing it that long, you know, I'm not doing all that. I kept thinking, I don't think she will either, but we're gonna try, so, yeah.
Was there anything kind of in the CET? I've gotten an opportunity to look at some of the, to sit in on some groups and to see some of the computer groups as well. And it's kind of fun. Some of it's a little challenging, but it's fun. I'm wondering, as you went through CET, was there something in there that really challenged you, that you felt like maybe learned from? What were some of the biggest?
The biggest challenge for me was they had this one program, and I don't remember how it went, but it was this one computer game where you had to do something one way, and then the next level was to do it the exact opposite. And that was the hardest thing for me in the world, because I had trained my brain to do it this exact way to get through the first level, and the second level was doing the exact opposite of what you just did. And I couldn't do it. I just felt so destroyed after it, and so just exhausted. And I remember thinking that was going to be the end of CET for me, but my coach got me back in it and motivated me and got me back on the computer, but it was so hard.
But do you remember the first time you completed it?
Yeah.
I remember. Driving home, she was calling me, Mom, I did.
Yeah.
I remember that.
You beat the computer, yeah.
Yes.
Sounds like getting past a challenge too.
Yeah, it was very
exciting.
challenging.
Yeah.
Well, and goal setting you had talked about too. Was
my
real beneficial.
goal setting was to see something all the way through, because I do get a motivation when I get halfway through it. Not in the beginning phase, I'm like over motivated to do something. Like it consumes me, the thought of doing whatever I'm doing. You know, I get over excited about it, and then somewhere along the way down the middle of the road, I give up on it, and I just can't see it all the way through. And that was my goal for the class, is to see it all the way through. So I ended up seeing the class all the way through.
What are some challenges? What was truly challenging for you?
Raising.
I think back to the way Sam did Sam Fletcher did have us approach ourselves, and the way of learning of what the material we covered in CET. And it was something when I get to a conference or when I get with people, I start thinking about how he approached us at one time. And like, you know, the gist and the scenarios and the being rigid and what have you was a big part of that program. And
being flexible.
Flexible.
Be flexible.
Yeah, I think those are the few that were kind of in my head all the time when I meet with people.
And front stage and backstage.
Right. Yes.
We discussed that.
We went over a lot of that. We didn't. You weren't in my group, I don't think, were you?
No.
I don't remember you being there.
The worst thing about CET is having to raise your hand every time you want to talk. I mean, it took me back to grade school, and I started stomping the floor. But I could see how it kept everything on point and people on task.
Cheryl, or do you have any challenges that? Cheryl.
Introduce yourself. Memorizing my speech for graduation.
Did you memorized yours completely?
Well, I had a paper that I looked at.
Wow.
And if I look at it all the time, I look a lot at the audience. So, I cried.
I cried too.
Yeah. I made it to the end and then I started crying. Yeah.
Well, it's emotional.
Yeah, it is emotional.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she has a habit, but when she does it's because she's so happy.
Yeah.
Every time she gives a speech, she starts crying at the end because she made it through.
Yeah.
But I have one thing to say about her. She didn't like writing. They had to get you to write. Well,
Oh, yeah.
she took the subject, one of the subjects she took in college in Tri-C was composition.
College composition.
Now that right there says composition is writing.
Mm-hmm.
She had to write essays on, and she got so good at it, you know, and I said, now see, you didn't want to do it, but you started out, and now you can write an essay just like that, you know. But in every essay she wrote, when she'd read it, she started crying at the end. So, yeah, so it really did help her, you know, and as a parent, you know, what we have to go through when they aren't all right. And then when you can see the improved product, you just feel so proud, you know. Yeah.
Sometimes you don't see the improvement in yourself, but others around
Right.
you do.
Others around
That's
her
true.
see it, yeah, because
Yeah.
she never could see it for
No,
a while
Sarah
there.
either, yeah.
She couldn't either, and we just had to keep encouraging her,
Yeah.
and telling her, and finally, she says, you know, maybe I am that way.
Yeah.
And now she just feels like,
Yeah, Sarah would often say, I'm not getting any, this isn't helping me. I'm not any better.
that's the same thing I
Yes,
went
you
through
are.
with her, yes, the same thing. And
So it
everything we would
helps
try to put her
everybody
in,
involved.
Yes.
she would
Family,
cry and
obviously.
carry on.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely, because like I said, you don't know what to do. You
don't.
don't. You just, you're, and
There's
I'm
a
a
lot of
nurse. I'm a
times-
registered nurse.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to know what to do. But I didn't. You know, we couldn't even figure out what was wrong and why, and, you know, so,
A lot of times when you have this illness, you think about me, I,
yeah.
and how it affects you, and you don't necessarily think about other people in the family.
Right,
How it
right,
affects them.
right. That's true too, yeah.
About how far in did you start to notice results, or you start to notice changes for the family members? You're saying you saw something maybe way before they did about
Oh, I think right away. Just, I mean, in Sarah's situation, because at the time she had her own car, she was driving herself here, and she was living in Tremont at the time, so, you know, it's a decent drive. And the fact that she would do it, and I mean, I kept waiting to find out that, you know, she got in her car and decided to, you know, go to the mall instead or something, because she didn't want to do it. But she was going, so really, pretty immediately, I started to see some change. And then I think you know, I recall it now anyway as a very slow and steady progression, where we'd be at dinner one night, and normally, prior to this point, we'd talk about something, and 2 minutes later, she would ask the same question. Like I'd be telling her, don't forget, John and I are going to be away this weekend, we're going to do this and do this and do this, and I'll be back on Sunday, and she'd say, okay, and then, you know, a few bites of food, and then she'd say, what are you doing this weekend? Are we going out this weekend? And, you know, Sarah, I just told, you know, but that all changed, and I can't remember where we were in the program, but I remember distinctly at dinner one night, because my husband and I just both looked up at each other, because we had told her something, and this time it was me who forgot, and then I went and said something contradictory, and she corrected me, and my husband was like, oh my God, Sarah, you know, Sarah remembered that. You know, it was great. So it really was pretty immediate and like just progressive through the process.
family members?
Sometime through going through the program, I became discouraged at something. You know, like 3 weeks into the program, it was discouraging, and after that, I started motivating skills, and it came around that I really did enjoy myself as we did continue.
Well, I saw her improvement after she got with JFSA, you know, because like I said, they got her into Hopewell, and what I've noticed really about her is she has a lot of compassion now, which she didn't have before. You know, when you can think about other people, and before it's just me, everything. She's inward. Now she's outgoing, and she's compassionate. She thinks about what I have to do, you know, and all of this change along with the CET, all of this was a help to her doing it. But that's when I noticed her change when she got with JFSA. She'd been going through whatever she was going through about 8 years or so before then. And when we got to, I think Wendy was one of her first caseworkers. Yeah. So you know how she was in the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, well.
I know.
She's 100%, she's revolved 360 degrees.
If you would have told me at the beginning, Cheryl, that you would be going to school, I would have said, oh, that's my dream, but I don't know. And here you are in school and doing so well. Yeah.
There she starts again now. She's
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, you know, when I go back, I'll be talking with, you know, not only administrators, clients, but, you know, also family members who are very interested in bringing this home. Kind of wondering, having been through the experience, what would you want me to share with them, or what would you want them to know if they're considering kind of?
Do it.
That's in a nutshell.
That's in a nutshell.
Just do it.
Just do it. Yeah.
Well, and you know, I think the thing that's really enduring for me, and Ray and I have kind of a relationship that goes beyond his work with Mark, this is the concept of neuroplasticity. I mean, you know, for many, many years, you know, people say you stop evolving at the age of 5 or 18 or 23. I mean, you pick the number developmentally. And what we found as a result of CET and some of the other research is that the brain continues to be plastic throughout our lives.
Right.
And that's, to me, a very, very helpful concept, not only for Mark, but for me.
In general,
You know, and hopeful in the sense that they say that neurons are wired together.
Right.
And so the idea that even at my advanced stage, you can still make changes, you can still make alterations in your brain and in your chemistry, and that on an ongoing basis, it's not like you have a diagnosis and then all of a sudden you can see your life in one straight line. With that whole concept for me to provide it hope. And you know, I work in healthcare and I've worked with neurologists, and so the concept was really revolutionary to me professionally, but it's also very meaningful to me on a personal basis, because it's not like you are your diagnosis.
Right.
You know, and I have my, you know, again, we all have issues. I've struggled with depression, and so the idea of knowing that it isn't just going to have to be one single way, that there's hope, that there's other things that we can do as individuals or families to encourage change throughout someone's life, I think is really, really important. And many, many, many people, including many medical professionals, don't know about the power of the brain to continue to change throughout someone's life. So I think that's really important for people to know.
And
I think it allows you to take control of your own illness. That's one thing that I learned, is that I can make a difference in my own recovery, which I didn't think was possible.
I know, as a mom, I was looking for the pill, you know, the thing. What thing is going to bring me my daughter back and make her okay again? And obviously, I can't sit here and say CET is that thing, but it's certainly, in our experience, it's the biggest piece of the thing that we've found yet. That, and obviously, you know, the right meds, but it's a big chunk of it. So it's not like you're going to send your son or daughter through CET and, you know, they're going to come out being the person they were before they got sick. But but it like you said, it allows for hope, and it allows for reaching their highest potential. And you start to realize that the sky's the limit. She can do anything. It may take her longer. She may have to go a different route to get there, but she can get there. And I don't think either one of us thought that before she came into CET. So
Pretty powerful.
it's very powerful. It really is. Really.
What about folks who are kind of going through it? What could I share with clients who are considering coming into CET? What would you want them to know about the program?
You got what you put in.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't realize that until I was halfway through it, is that I wasn't getting, you know, what I want until I actually put forth the effort. You know, I'm not gonna get better unless I want to get better. So
That's true.
I don't think there'll be a comparison of Sam Flesher. He was very highly educated and what have you. He was good at the program. The way he present himself and keep you thinking, he really would. You're from where? Where you did mention it to me.
Oh, sure. I'm from Los Angeles. I'm from California.
Right.
Yeah. All right, I think. Actually, if folks want me to, I can tell you a little bit where I'm coming from. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It sounded as if some of that was, and I felt like, I'm Caitlin Gilbert. Oh, hello, Cameron. I come from Los Angeles, California, so I work for the Department of Mental Health there. And part of my role, well, I do quite a few things, but I oversee a lot of outpatient services. So we have ACT-like programs, for those that are familiar with ACT. We have a lot of field-based services, and we have wellness centers. So with some legislation changes and new funding about 7 years ago in California, we've really refocused our system on recovery, which is exciting for us.
Yeah.
And we've really tried to build upon what was already there and refocus from, again, a lot of medical model, kind of symptom-based treatment to recovery-based, part of the community, and quality of life being some of our most important things. And so CET seems to be one thing that we've heard people have felt has really helped them kind of in their lives and to help them kind of get back into the community. And so I'm out here and investigating and learning more about it. We have a number of family members who've brought it to our attention and are really interested in it. And so my boss has asked me to come out and take a look, see if this is something we can bring back home.
It's wonderful.
So I can't thank you enough, each of you, for bringing your time here and sharing with me, because it's been really valuable and helpful for me to bring back some personal stories of how CET has really helped you. So
Great.
I helped you, helped your family members. So each of you, I think, has really given me something to bring back and think about.
Great.
So thank you.
And
Really
we
appreciate
also
it.
learned about the brain, the frontal
Local.
cortex, the frontal lobe, and the limbic
yeah.
system, and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, so you learned a little more too about how the brain works, some
Yeah.
basic kind of educational
Right, yeah.
stuff.
What was healthy for the brain, what have you. That went on in the program.
Yeah.
There were a lot of tears, but there was also a lot of laughter among us.
Yeah.
And that made things a little bit lighter, and so we could finish there and go do the rest of the day. After an enjoyable experience like that and lifting your mood, it was very beneficial. And Sam was cracking jokes left and right.
Seems like he was a pretty valuable part of the experience for you. So I mean, that tells me though too that the way the coaches kind of work with you and the personality of the coaches makes a big difference.
yeah.
Yeah. What were some qualities, like what were things about some of the coaches that really helped you?
The one-on-one that we got. I mean, they came to your house and they would meet with you personally and help you go over your goals and work with you individually on what you wanted to talk about, and let you take control of your own recovery. So it was very empowering, not only in the sense that you got to choose, but that they came to you, and you didn't have to go to them.
Yeah, I think that was a large part of why you were able to go all the way through the
Yeah.
program, don't you think? Because it would have been too overwhelming for her to travel twice a week. To travel once a week wasn't as hard.
Yeah.
And to have the coach coming to her was very beneficial,
Any difference?
yeah. And you could always call, too.
Yeah, and they're just overly friendly and nice, and you could tell that it was genuine, It wasn't something that they just put on to get their job done. It was a real interest in how you were doing.
Yeah. What were some other good qualities of a coach?
Well, we
What
had
helped
Betty
you?
Durham in the class I was in, and she expressed herself with us every so often. She was real encouraging. She would try to make your point of view a little better than it was, and she was real good at it.
Oh, they were all enthusiastic, very enthusiastic, and therefore made things, the situation comfortable enough where you could work on what you were working on and build confidence in that way.
That was my Wendy Mai, and I was telling you, that's Wendy over there, my coach. Yeah. She always talk about getting the gist and all that stuff. Yeah. It stuck with me.
Go back to a question I asked just a little bit ago about, what can I share with clients who are interested in participating in CET? What would you want somebody maybe new to know? I don't know, and we had stopped maybe over here. You have
What would be good for them to know? Yeah.
There's a worthwhile experience.
yeah.
Yeah. Just give it a chance.
You could also add a new element to your life, because you would know what to expect. This is something on a whole different level, so it's worthwhile going into it to see what all you can get out of it. And if you apply yourself, like you said, it's the individual, how much you want to get out, because there's a whole lot there to get out of it. Like you said, you learn about your brain, different things going on around you.
Different perspectives.
And everything. It's so much that you can get out of it,
CET is cognitive enhancement therapy. My question I have is, do you think it's more therapy or education or fun?
I think it's everything.
All of it.
I think it's educational sometimes. And a lot of stuff in the program we had I really don't use. I didn't use in the past, which I did use after the program.
Yeah. Such as?
Just being how to approach yourself, how you deal with people and meet with people.
Okay.
I find myself thinking of the class sometime when I meet with people also.
That's great. That's great.
I think people that without an illness should take some of the courses that we had, because they're just educational in general. It's good to know things like role playing, like you might be a mother but you're also a sister and you have to play both roles and you have to do them simultaneously, and how do you do that? And it's a good educational kind of thing for anyone, I
personal
believe.
growth.
Yeah, it's going to help anyone.
Yeah, you used to come home and go over with John and I some of the lessons you learned that day, and it was always really interesting.
And that's, I think, a lot of my questions for now. I'm wondering if there's anything that folks want to share, or something that maybe we haven't talked about that's really important to you or is really valuable to you going through CET, or so much.
We're just real excited to hear that it's making its way to other parts of the country, so that's great.
I hope so.
Okay.
Anything else that you want to highlight, or that I'm not asking about?
Trying to think what, it's 48 to, and I think in Don's case it was even 53 or 54 weeks in Megan too. And Cheryl, that it's, that was a long time, but it went pretty fast. Jeff thought it was only 3 months long, and it was. And I think one thing we really talked about is having fun with CET. That's important to have that to counterbalance all the seriousness of recovery. but it's a good way to learn things and do that. What to me is very encouraging is to hear how much everybody's still remembering about CET and using it every day in their lives and stuff. And Don was in our first class, which graduated in 2002, so 9 years ago.
That's
Yeah. I went back and looked at all the dates and stuff. That's why I can remember that time. So, but that you're using in your business, because you do a lot of contact with the customers in the work that you do now.
Well, off and on, kind of filling everywhere throughout the company, people on vacations and what have you. And, right now, I've been doing more like mechanical part of the company, doing the actual process.
Great. It takes a lot of flexibility. We talk about that in CET's cognitive flexibility, but to do all the different parts of the dry cleaning business, from customers and the repair work and the dry cleaning itself, that's great.
Wondering too, because a number of you are also kind of working in school, or is there a section or a chapter, a module, something that you worked on that you carry with you and you use in your work or in going to school? Some skill that really stuck with
Social
you?
cues.
Social cues?
Yeah.
Front stage, backstage, which is the concept of how to handle your coworkers, how to interact with your coworkers, and what to say, what is appropriate, what's inappropriate.
What that means, front stage, backstage, can you explain just a
Well,
little bit?
backstage, on a stage, in the backstage, you can divulge more information about yourself, whereas front stage is more
More of a
dealing with the public.
Superficial type
Yeah.
relationship. Yeah.
But it deals with inappropriate and appropriate actions and speech. Yeah.
I have one thing, I don't know, I think it's been about 2 years ago, they had a hour-long program on channel, Leon Bibb, it's one of our anchors, on Channel 5. Do you remember that? They had a whole hour about CET.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you know.
Had more hair back then.
And they had one of the clients that went there, and she
Right.
talked about it. I can't think of it because I had Cheryl and she knew her. She said no, she knew the name, but she was on. Yeah.
Right.
Very informative, and that was one way of getting it out to all of Cleveland. Well, whoever watched Channel 5, you know.
Right.
So that'd be a good idea for you all to get something like that out in California.
Try to share it with everybody.
Yeah.
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 So how are those Kardashians doing?
You know, they're my neighbors. They live right there. No, it's funny. There's one side of Los Angeles, I think, where all those folks live, and then there's the other side of the suburbs where most of us normal folk live. You can go sightseeing on the other side if you like. It's fun. So, but
I've only been there once, so.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago, before the illness. Capital B, capital T, capital I.
Nothing beats the fall out here. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
And again, I just want to say thanks to each of you. I really, really do appreciate the time that you spent to come out here and talk with me. So I'll be certain to carry a lot of this back, but you've really helped kind of, again, give kind of a face and a kind of a person to CET and what it's done for each of you. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ronnie. Just to give you information, we're now at 11 sites in 6 states, and hopefully California. State of Delaware, I think, is going to be the next site that we're going to do. One in Erie, Pennsylvania, Colorado. So we're getting out there. I think it's a really important thing to us to try and do that. And I really appreciate you doing here. And if you could sign off the releases, then we can put just little snippets up on the website and stuff. And we won't put names up there. We'll put that up there. And I'll let you know when that happens, we're gonna take a look at that stuff. We have somebody besides me do the editing, believe me, we've got a professional to do that, so, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I got something.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank you very
Talk
much.
to you soon.
Yeah.
Sure.
Hi,
Nice to have met you.
And I know you were coming to me, I'm so glad you came.
Oh, thank you. I just didn't want to leave the impression that it didn't work or that all sadness and all that. I was still very grateful for the opportunity that he had. And,
It had a lot of good years.
it really did. It really did. So it's
wonderful.
sad in one way, but in another way, it's as it should be. So.
I really love what you shared about him, because I think it felt like I got a good.
Hey, still right in the
Well, look, I hope you can take the message back
Talking
and
about
back
you.
to her for
Thank you.
We were at lunch
Take care.
before we came here, and she was just saying how.
Yeah, I'm sorry we lost contact.
Yeah, I lost my phone, so you know.
California Zoo.
Tomorrow
Yeah.
morning, very
Are you
early.
still right?
I got
Yeah,
relatives
here and
that
there.
just came from there.
Whenever I have a
Back
chance.
a week ago.
Common.
In an accounting firm out there.
So what class do you have today?
She does live in the peninsula,
I don't have
like Place Verdes.
Palos Verdes?
Yeah.
Oh, they're
Verdes.
doing quite well there.
Yes.
It's
I
a
heard-
beautiful place to go.
I invited him, but I haven't been there. And I guess they were having severe rains there for about a week straight, I heard, they told me, and it wasn't the place to be.
So Buddhism, huh?
Yeah.
Excellent.
What's the sound of one hand clapping? I don't know.
Thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate it. Say hello to your
I
mom,
love
dad,
that.
and you have to great work.
Hours is a lot.
Rita?
Using those seats.
Yeah.
Great care.
Good to see you sometime.
Welcome.
I'm
Thank
glad
you
you
so
did
much.
work.
Nice to meet you.
That's a good
Thank you, Al.
Yeah.
Keep
Nice
doing
meeting
it.
you.
Hi,
Hi.
Sarah.
Sarah.
I'll walk you guys out.
Thank you, Sarah. It's good to meet you.
Thank you very much for
Thank you
coming.
so much, Megan.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you very
And
much.
Steven?
Megan, great
Jeff,
seeing
oh
you.
my goodness.
Okay, Jeff, thanks, bud. Appreciate it, bud.
Okay, and good luck.
Thank
Good
you
luck with
so
you, and
much.
you all can get going out there in California, something worthwhile having.
Sure hope so.
Yeah. Yeah.
And thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. Oh, you can also tell them that it expedited a marriage. This couple that got married.
Oh.
Tell them she felt so much better about herself, she finally got married.
She got married. That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, you probably should sign this too, since we probably maybe use, at least use your voice.
Okay. Oh, yeah.